Meanwhile, Detroit, the first of 2 first-round picks for Steve Yzerman and the gang. They have the 9th and the 17th pick. They also have 3 second-round picks, so you're going to see a lot of Steve Yzerman in the next 48 hours here in Nashville. They've missed the playoffs the last 7 years, but a lot of nice pieces are in place, and they're hoping to add a big one here at number 9. Let's hear what Steve Yzerman and the gang are doing with the Detroit Red Wings' first pick of this entry draft.
First, I'd like to congratulate David Poile, fantastic general manager, fantastic person, and a great friend on a tremendous career. Also, I'd like to congratulate the Vegas Golden Knights on a Stanley Cup championship. With the 9th pick in the draft, the Red Wings select from the Brandon Wheat Kings center Nate Danielson.
Hugs all around for Nate Danielson from Brandon Wheat Kings. In fact, the captain of the Wheat Kings. Grew up an Oilers fan. I have a feeling he's a Detroit Red Wing fan, though, now. Look, a big man, a ton of skill. What do you make of this pick, Sam?
Oh, I'm a big fan of this guy because he's just so cerebral. Like, he's the type of guy that if you're looking for a retaliation penalty, it's not likely to happen. He's just going to come back and do something else to impact the game in a different way. Grew up in Red Deer, watching Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, watching Brandon Sutter take face-offs. When I think about Danielson, I think about a guy that is going to play in the National Hockey League. Yeah, that sounds weird, but sometimes you get to the situation and it doesn't work. Why do I think that? Yeah, he can put up points. There's no problem there. But this guy has a solid B game. He can match up, he can take face-offs, he can play on the penalty kill. So if there's not a spot for him in the top 6, or it takes a little longer for him to get there and it doesn't quite work out in that regard, he's got that solid B game to rely on where he can play in your bottom 6, he can work on the PK, and he can still match up defensively. That's why I really like this player here. He's a guarantee to play.
Part of scouting is going to see players multiple times. See them on the road, see them at home, because you get different matchups, especially when you're high-end guys, okay? What you see from Danielson in both those scenarios is he plays a little bit too much in all situations. So some nights you're not going to get the best in this area of his game or the best in that area of his game. As he matures and they pigeonhole him into a more of a regular role, be it a 2F who's going to match up on the road against the second line, etc., he can play on your second unit power play at worst. He'll kill penalties. He'll get up ice. He'll bump and grind. I don't know that he's going to be a high-end point producer in the league, but he's a middle-of-the-lineup guy, a glue guy, if you will.
His brother Noah, of course, plays for Medicine Hat, so it's in the family, and here he is now, a member of the Detroit Red Wings. We're going to hear from him in just a matter of moments. Any surprises? There were 9 picks in. It's been so forward-heavy as we anticipated, and there's still a lot of what you guys would call high-end picks on the board.
Yeah, the surprise for me is Simashev. There's no doubt about it. He shook up the board right away. We knew Michkov and felt pretty comfortable that he would enter the conversation at 4 and not get past 8. He fits in comfortably at 7. But Simashev is the guy, no doubt, who has created chaos here. And you heard it. Ryan McCollum said it. And I don't think he was lying when he said, Ryan Leonard? I didn't think he was going to be here. He was going to be gone ahead of us. And that's because Simashev was picked ahead of him. Leonard was available. They're extremely happy with that pick. A pick that they might have moved off earlier when the board changed. He stayed.
And there's Nate Danielson doing his thing. Again, 33 goals, 79 points, impressive season. Let's get back down on the floor with Caroline.
Well, Nate, it's one thing to get drafted in the NHL. It's another when Steve Yzerman calls your name out. What was that moment like for you?
Yeah, that was definitely a little extra special. I mean, it's something I dreamed of for a long time, and to have him do it was a little extra special.
You grew up skating on the outdoor pond, obviously, in Red Deer. Grew up an Oilers fan. Do you think that little kid would have ever imagined that this moment would happen?
No, definitely not. I mean, like you said, it's been a dream ever since I was a little kid, and to have it actually happen, I mean, it's just a ton of emotions right now.
Who do you think of today?
I mean, a lot of people. Obviously, my family, my mom, my dad, my brother. I mean, they've all been amazing, and then as well as all my other family and just people back in Brandon, coaches, all the staff there. So a ton of people to thank.
Well, congratulations and enjoy this moment.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, we're can get you back now onto the floor because we're 17th overall is the Detroit Red Wings. They've already taken Nate Danielson 9th overall, and now they're going to be picking 17th overall as well. Steve Yzerman with a lot of work to do. Again, Detroit, they've missed the playoffs the last 7 years. They've added great Nate. What are they going to do at 17? Any thoughts on this, Sam?
Well, Detroit has that luxury of the second 2 highest picks. We looked at Arizona at 6 and 12, and now they're pretty confident with the player they like. Again, we talk about the depth of this draft class. There's a number of ways in which they can go here. It'll be interesting to see which way Steve Yzerman takes this. Remember, this is an organization that's had a lot of success going to Sweden. Håkan Andersson, the legendary scout there. We'll see if that's the direction they go here.
They're taking the stage. Jason, any thoughts here for the Detroit Red Wings? We see they've added a talented forward in Nate Danielson, and now here they are moments away from a second first-round pick.
Yeah, we're getting into that situation here where I'm starting to get more and more curious about what's going to go off the board defensively. So it's going to be interesting. There's some real good players on the back end still on the board here.
All right, well, let's hear from the Detroit Red Wings as they make a second first-round pick.
Before making our selection, I'd like to thank all the Red Wing fans back in Detroit at Little Caesars Arena who are watching the draft live. We really appreciate your support. With the 17th pick, the Red Wings select from Sollefteå, Sweden, of the SHL, Axel, Sandin, Pellikka.
Big hugs there, especially for his father, Yanni, an elite-level cross-country skier. So, you know, he's got a lot of sports in his pedigree there from Sweden. And you know what, Chuck, you said earlier, that right-handed shot defenseman almost as coveted as a center, and that's what they went with, the right-handed shot defenseman.
Yeah, they did. They're hard to find, and, you know, Steve has some size on the back end already. Sider, Edmonton's coming, Wallinder's coming, and they moved Ronak last year, you know, to Vancouver, and Sandin Pellikka is a guy that can come in. He's 5'11", but he can defend, and these guys can talk about the scouting report, but this is a good player.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Back in November, he wasn't really on the radars. How did he get on the radar and ultimately into the first round?
Wow, I mean, his skating ability, his poise, he plays mistake-free type of hockey, and that's what I love most about this guy. When you go back and think about what the defensemen were going to be, I thought 3 right-shot defensemen would be taken in the first half of this draft. We missed by 1. I also figured Detroit might jump on this player at pick number 9. That didn't happen because I think a player that they didn't think was going to be there was there. Now they get a chance to move down the list a little bit. They get that same player that I projected at 9 here at number 17, a real good complementary player to the defense that they already have, obviously a couple of years away.
Two-way transitional defenseman. He's going to quarterback at worst your second power play unit. He's an area defender with an active stick. Not a lot of bump and grind to his game. He'll track back. He'll get the pucks first. Like if somebody goes to chip it behind him on a dump in, he's going to get there first. He's going to move it up ice quickly.
Erik Karlsson is his idol as a hockey player. If they can get something close to Erik Karlsson, my goodness, they have literally won the lottery here with the 17th overall pick. Much more to talk about, but we do want to get it to Kyle, who has something to add. Kyle.
Yeah, Dave, well, thankfully for Axel Sandin Pellikka, he never had a difficult time finding ice growing up in Sweden. His father, Yanni, or you mentioned, DA, would build a small pad of ice in the yard during the winter, so he had a space to skate and work on his skills. In fact, at one time, though, they had the key to a local arena so he could skate nearly whenever he wanted to. A defenseman who wore 88 Lutz growing up because he idolized Patrick Kane along with Erik Karlsson now has the key to the hearts of Detroit and the Red Wings. Dave?
I love that story. We see that with so many of these kids. They're inspired. That's why, you know, Wayne Gretzky would always say, I have to put on a show every time I play because I know there's some young child watching me, maybe wanting to emulate me, maybe wanting to follow in my career. And you've seen these guys are now following a lot of the footsteps of the you know, the future Hall of Famers that we're seeing.
Yeah, it's such great inspiration to young players. And you grow up watching them, you emulate them, and then all of a sudden at 13 years old, you're saying, hey, maybe I can be one of those players. What's impressive to me about this guy is the way he ended the year. At the under-18s, he was named the top defenseman there, ended up picking up 11 points, including 5 against Canada and an 8-0 win to open the tournament.
Let's get you back down to the floor, Steve Yzerman and Elliot Friedman.
If there's anything that's fitting, it's the Detroit Red Wings and a Swedish defenseman. I'm curious, how much influence did Nicklas Lidstrom have on this pick?
Really, to be honest, none. You know, Nick, not only Nick Lidstrom, Nick Cronwell. The reason why is Nick couldn't get here. His flight got canceled. I think he's still driving to Detroit as we speak here. He couldn't make it from New York here. So, but we have Nick Cronwell, Nick Lidstrom in Sweden. Obviously, Håkan Andersson's been scouting for us in Sweden a long time, as well as Thomas Karlsson. They're all there watching in Sweden.
you've probably seen him play a little bit. He's a smart defenseman. He passes the puck well. He skates well. So he's in the mold of some of those good Swedish defensemen we've had in the past.
Thanks very much, Steve, and I hope he makes it to Detroit.
Yeah, we hope so too. He's important. I don't want to lose him.
Thank you.
Well, hold on. We're going to get to the Jets in a minute, but first let's get you back down to the floor with Karen.
Thanks, David. Well, Axel, when your dad came home from a business trip as a kid, he gifted you a Patrick Kane jersey, and this dream was born. Fair to say that's your new favorite jersey?
Oh, yeah, for sure. No questions asked.
What was the moment like hearing your name called?
Such a sign of relief, and, I was waiting for my name to be called like the whole time, and, Detroit is such a great organization. It's a part of the original six, so I'm very happy to join this great organization.
What influence did your dad have on this moment?
Mostly just off ice practices, and he helps me train mentally too, right during the season. I think that's one part that helps me a lot, to still build confidence. Even though I had a bad game, I can still focus on the next one and just continue to play my game. So he's been helping me a lot with that.
Well, Axel, congratulations.
Thank you.
If you look at the draft board, the Detroit Red Wings now have 3 picks in a row. What do you think happens here?
Someone's throwing a hat.
Right? Yeah, the hat trick. But Jason, is this an area where you maybe trade, move? We haven't had any movement at this point.
Trey, I think there's too many names available on their list, guys. I think they just keep rolling it out. So they just went to
a goalie, Trey Augustine.
Yeah, so they went to Augustine right into their backyard there at the U.S. National Team Development Program. Really athletic, great feet, tracks the puck aggressively, fronts it as well. But he's a guy that plays higher in his net, okay? He's a little bit smaller than some of the other guys, plays higher, but super athletic, great feet.
909 win percentage this year was the best ever by a development program goaltender in one season. And these guys have churned out the goalies in the last couple of years.
Sure have. The program has been really successful at, developing players of all sorts. And here, Augustine comes off the court. Moves so smoothly. He was such a backbone of the 18 team. We're going to see him down the road. But for Trey Augustine, it's very interesting. The third goaltender now in the second round. It's a very deep draft. It just shows you how strong these goaltenders are and how important the goaltender is. Usually we see them in the second round. We see them in groupings. And so far, we've seen 3 off the board early in the second.
There's always a run. At the table, as soon as one goes, everybody's scurrying to look at their goalie list.
Does it help for the Red Wings with 3 picks in a row as well? It's like,
100%.
What? This is, we can't maybe expected them to take a goalie if they're not going to trade these picks. And the Bruins, I think last time we saw 3-0 was Boston a few years back.
The first round.
In the first round.
Yeah.
DeBrusque, Sinishin, Zaboral. No goaltenders taken. This is interesting. The second round, we'll start with the goaltender. Will they change it up? Go maybe one of each, defenseman and forward as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's strategically they could. It depends, again, how the list goes. Or if they're going to trade one of these out, Reader, like kick it down the next year or the year. Like 2026 picks are starting to get traded off the board, which is incredible to me. But, hey, they got a timeline in this kid. He's going to Michigan State. Goalies traditionally at least 3 years of college. And then, of course, they usually don't hit till their second contract cycle. Like their entry-level deal, it takes time for these guys. So this is a long play.
Got some proximity there, too. Plymouth being so close to Detroit, there's a lot of the higher-end scouts. When you look at Draper and you look at Sean Horkoff sitting at the table, Steve Yzerman would have been able to see Augustine very easily and on a number of occasions.
All right, we see the Red Wings taking some time. Does that indicate that something might be happening, or the fact that they have 3 picks in a row and they're just taking their time with who they're going to select now with their 41st and 42nd pick?
No, they're making a call to somebody at this stage. They don't wait after Augustine. After you pick a goalie, you already had a guy in the waiting there. So,
yeah, good call, JB.
One thing I
just
just
on his phone, so
did they call timeout there?
I'm not sure if he called time, but he's definitely on the phone.
Yeah,
chit-chatting with someone. He and Chris Draper.
No timeout yet, because you can see that clock still ticking down, 37 seconds and counting.
Something I noticed here, the last 2 picks, just to let you guys know, like Andrew Crystal, Evan Marble for the Washington Capitals, he's right there in Kelowna. So that's a backyard guy. And then again, Trey Augustine, backyard for the Red Wings.
Andrew Gibson.
All right, the pick is in.
The
Sioux
Detroit Red Wings
Greyhounds. Andrew Gibson going to the Detroit Red Wings.
The Ontario Hockey League.
Well, Andrew Gibson is a really interesting story because as a 6'3" right shot defenseman, this is a guy who had a lacerated kidney earlier this year. He missed 8 weeks, so he kind of went under the radar for a little while. This happened on a hit by Kyle Jackson, North Bay Battalion, and he ends up being out for 6 weeks as a result of that. But the key part for him is he was able to get back healthy enough to be able to play in the under-18s. Played the top 4 role there, played a ton of minutes. You see he's got some bump to his game, and we always talk about the value of having a right-shot defenseman. Andrew Gibson is all of that, and again, talk about that backyard pick. Detroit pretty close to Sault Ste. Marie. A lot of opportunities to be able to scout there.
And you can see in all those videos he's using his stick work, and that's something that the Detroit Red Wings and Steve Yzerman's group have always taken. It's the intelligent player. May not be the biggest, may not be the smallest, but the intelligent player. When you watch Andrew Gibson play, his stick work is able to control down his own zone and close gaps in the neutral zone with his stick is obviously something that was noticed, and we saw it in every one of those videos. His stick was on the ice, and he leads with his stick. That's usually a good indication of a smart thinking defenseman, not rushing into plays, overplaying, and being over physical, using your stick and thinking the game.
Like, good for him, though, to be able to come from that. I know it was a scary injury. It was a little bit touch and go, but he responded and rebounded well.
All right, Steve Yzerman, you saw him back on the phone. Put that phone down.
It
looks like
to announce.
Bill Daly's at the podium. Here we go.
Detroit has traded this pick, number 43, to Nashville for picks number 47 and number 147. Nashville, you're on the clock.
So the Red Wings trading pick number 43. Again, that was their 3rd in the row here in round number 2 in exchange for the Nashville Predators. They will receive pick 47 and pick 147 a lot later on this afternoon. So Nashville now officially on the clock.
Loud and boisterous. Do you think he's going to be wearing that Nashville jersey around all day, all night, and maybe all through the weekend?
Oh, yeah.
Around here?
No doubt. It's funny because he's kind of the opposite of Cole. Cole is a much more quiet, reserved type of player.
The Detroit Red Wings have selected Brady Cleveland from the U.S. Under-18 National Team Development Program.
All right, the pick is in 47. Brady Cleveland out of the U.S. Development Program. Sam.
I don't think there's any question that this is a projection pick, but Steve Yzerman likes his big D. Look at Edmonton, look at Sider. Brady Cleveland is along those lines. For me, this guy's going to be a complementary back pairing type of player. He can shoot the puck, and I don't think he's going to be a power play guy, but I do think he has the ability to play with some bite in his game. I'd like to see him work on the puck skills a little bit more. But again, JB, you talked about these backyard picks. Again, at the under-18 program, big, tall defenseman. Steve Yzerman goes down that road once again.
Yeah, he's a throwback, guys. He's a big body who would have been a real punishing player in the 80s, 90s, even early 2000s. Now, he just needs to get there quick enough, make a first pass.
University of Wisconsin will be happy to have him, but he's a fantastic skater. He's got great feet, moves extremely well. Like Brady Cleveland, he could be one of those sleeper picks we talked about in 5 years about how strong he is on the back end for the Wings.
Just official, we're working on it. Kailer, Yamamoto, and Klim Kostin go from Edmonton to Detroit for future considerations. Edmonton was capped tight. They needed some flexibility, so not surprised this happened. Just that they went together. I didn't know if I saw that coming, but that does happen to Detroit, Jameson.
All right, Elliot, appreciate that. Guys, reaction to what we just heard from Elliot.
Yamamoto's got a little bit of Fabry in him, and then you protect him and insulate him with Klim Kostin. I think Kostin is a really sneaky player. Like, I love his size. I love the bite he plays with. And as being a former first-round pick, don't sleep on his skill. He can play with skilled guys all day long, but add that grit that you see in the playoffs. I like that move for Detroit.
Yeah, you got to be willing to go to the hard areas for sure. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
And it was a silver medal for Sweden, too, as well. They lost the U.S. in the final there, and he was a big part of that.
Speaking of Sweden, Noah Dover Nilsson, Jason, left winger from Frölunda.
I would have thought at the beginning of the year that he would have gone higher than this. He went through some ebbs and flows. This is a fantastic story, guys, and I have to share it with you. He lost his mother to cancer and shared that with us at the Combine. He's been playing with a heavy heart and dealing with a lot of things off the ice. So good on him to plow through outside distraction and skill guy, off the flank, shooter, good speed. When this kid's on, he pushes the play.
You know what's interesting there? His brother Liam, also a Detroit pick. So now the two brothers can hang out together. And I know Noah has sought some help outside of the game in terms of mental performance. And I think that's a perfect idea for Detroit to get him paired up with his brother Liam. Now the two of them can be Detroit Red Wings. Obviously, they've had a lot of success there in Sweden. But again, the story that you talk about, JB,
is hugely important and at the forefront here today.
Yeah, older brother was a 5th-round pick by the Red Wings back in 2021.
And we are Vegas born. We're not a team that relocated or anything like that. And I remember when we first went to Vegas, there was a lot of civic pride that this is our first professional team. And then we ended up putting good teams on the ice, and the support was incredible. And yeah, I guess, when we turned the corner at that parade, because I wasn't sure what it was going to be like.
His progression hasn't got to that next level. Some are questioning sometimes the decision-making under pressure for Cam Allen, and I think at the U18 he struggled a little bit with that.
Raider at 147. I have 2 young kids. All they do is bicker. What about Kevin Bicker here to the Red Wings?
Well, you wouldn't be bickering with Kevin because he's the type of guy that would probably pop you in the nose if you started bickering. I mean, he's a very aggressive, very physical player. He's got great straight-line speed. Really enjoyed watching him play against his peers at the U18 level. This guy can absolutely fly. He's got great speed. Very physical player. And the problem with really evaluating Kevin at his peer level is that Germany has not been strong at the U20 level for the last few years. But Bicker's been that one player, when you watch him play, he really steps up. He really stands out watching him play. And he uses his speed to his advantage. He can get in hard in forechecks. He's not afraid to get physical. I like this pick by the Red Wings. He's a player that's going to need some time to develop, to understand the game a little better, because sometimes his speed goes his mind goes a little faster than his feet at times. But every time you watch him play, he's the guy when you're watching Germany internationally. He's like, yes, this is a guy who has really stepped up. In the U20 league in Mannheim, he had 21 points in 20 games, and that's battling injury throughout the course of the season. But I thought Bicker, he was passed over in last year's draft. I thought he might go a little bit earlier, but Red Wings got a nice pick here, and it doesn't hurt to help bring someone in from Germany. Mo Sider probably knows Kevin Bicker.
Absolutely.
Probably played with him a few years back, and it'd be easy transition.
Welcome back to the 2023 Upper Deck NHL Draft rounds 2 through 7. We are flying through round number 6.
We are even better.
What do you think your guys learned from the playoffs this year? Young players, first playoff for many of them. What do you think they learned?